Mark, and today I'm going to talk some audio description with a good friend of mine, Mr. Roy Samuelson.
Hey
Roy
there.
is Roy is has found the time in his day, in his busy life, of narrating and writing books, and eating and sleeping, stuff like that, to sit down and talk to me a little bit about this awesome book that he wrote. But he also is primarily known to a lot of us blind and low vision viewers as an audio description narrator. Specifically, I'll give a shout out. I know sometimes they can't shout out their own work, but House of the Dragon, it sort of is a big title from 2024. That was pretty excellent. I really enjoyed your work on that, sir. You can choose to neither confirm nor deny your presence on House of the Dragon, depending on things. That was an excellently described series.
Be
Um,
happy to pass it along to the writer.
yeah, and yes, the writer as well. And yes, it was, and generally, Roy gets a lot of work, and he can be a little bit of a comfort because he seems to work with most companies that provide at least above average audio description, if not excellent audio description, and not like bottom baseline. So I typically end up always enjoying the work that Roy does, and he has written a book on what sort of like how to get started. So I guess my first question is, how did you get started in audio description? Before you tell anybody else how to get started, how did you get started in audio description?
Oh, thanks for asking. Audio description for me, I think, started even before I knew about audio description. So there's a few, I'd say, influential moments and experiences that I had. Specifically, I worked at a Disney theme park ride called the Great Movie Ride, and it was this
Yeah.
traveling movie theater ride that in addition to playing a gangster that took over and got blown up every 7 minutes, there was also a spiel. There's like the guy that introduced as you go through the movies. It's like over here's Mary Poppins or over here's Tarzan, and there was a real dance between the audio that was happening in the actual theme park ride and when my cues came in and out, and you can trace the parallels to audio description performance in that sense. But I think the main thing was, I was part of this, produced writers group that would meet every Monday night for I was with them for about 10 years, so every Monday night with a few very few exceptions, 4 writers would bring in 25 pages of their script, and it was, an ice cold reading. It was, pretty rough, but again, these were writers who had experience writing for film and TV, and so there was a level of, professionalism to it,
Mhm.
and us actors would get on stage, and the important thing for that wasn't just the cold reading. We were given a script and we jumped up on stage. It was more about understanding story, in that most of my training in being a performer, whether a voiceover or actor, it was always, what's my intent and all this other great important stuff. But in this particular group, it was all about the story. And so I'd give the best performance I could along with all the other actors. And the focus was on the story being told. And I found that when I got out of the way of being the actor and focused on the story, that the writers were able to really focus on their work, and I could help support that in the best way I could. And so it would be clear when something wasn't working, when the actors weren't in sync. It didn't have to necessarily do with the acting performance, but it had to do with how the story was being structured. So there was a tremendous amount of learning that happened in those 10 years. And then I had an opportunity to audition for an audio description project, and it was a real click for a lot of the voiceover experiences that I had had kind of coming together and into one beautiful technical approach package. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I missed that great movie ride. That was an excellent ride.
Oh, you
Uh,
know it. It's so cool.
yeah, I'm old. Uh, yes. I think didn't the gangster had to hop on for a little bit, right? Swapped with the tour guide and then like rode a little bit on with the tour guide and then jumped back off or something like. it's been a long time now. It's
That's a good memory, that's right, yeah. There's
yeah, yeah,
also
yeah, yeah. It's
the cowboy too that took over,
yeah,
the outlaw.
yeah, yeah. I had some friends who were in that position down here at Disney MGMs that later became Hollywood Studios. So,
Yeah.
um,
Oh, that's so cool.
yep. They were very sad when it became the Mickey Mouse escape ride thing that it is now.
It's a pretty
Um,
tight community. I'm still in touch with a lot of friends.
yeah, yeah. It's funny how that works out even after
Yeah.
your event, yeah, after your ride closes or whatever, and you end up sort of hanging out with everybody that's still. But so so that's how you got started in audio description. Um, and I suppose now you're trying to help other people get in. What's the name of your book? This is a great time to plug what
Thanks for the segue and the
that
plug. Yeah. So, my book is A Voice Actor's Guide to Audio Description Performance: Crafting Immersive Entertainment Experiences for Blind Audiences is the subtitle, or the little thing underneath it. And Nibby Press published it. And it's notable that Nibby Press focuses on performance. It's not a disability focused publishing arm, which was important to me in this context to expand the access of what disability means in the sense of what audio description can bring to the to not only the community of audiences that
yeah.
watch audio description, but also the performers that perform it, disabled, blind, sighted, or otherwise.
Yeah, and, I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and look at the book 'cause I'm in the middle of, like, Oscar award season with 1,000 screeners and being in multiple critics groups and trying to
Congrats
vote,
on
but
that, by the way, John.
yes, it's, representation matters, a lot,
Yes.
and I think my, groups that accepted me this year, and I hope, next year to be in even more of them. And, of course, Tomato Meter proved to be nice to have a blind critic that's on the Tomato Meter. But I think it's great that you're writing a book because I know one of my other favorite narrators, Dave Wallace, always tips his hat to you and gives you a ton of credit. And
Mm,
he's done some really exceptional work. And I think both of you guys really like performative audio description, like conscious performative audio description, and thinking about what it is that you're contributing to the project instead of just reading text. And
yeah.
how did you how did you help Dave? Dave always tells the story when talking about you, but what's what's the story from your end of how did you help Dave and others sort of get started in the industry? How did you inspire
This
them?
is this is even before the pandemic. A really quick tangent. I had put together voiceover workout groups way, way, way back when I was working for a post production company. And they had different facilities throughout Los Angeles. And one of them in Hollywood had a studio that was perfect for recording. They were doing a lot of video game projects. And I had asked the studio head, who I'm still friends with, he came to my book launch the other day. He had said that he had an engineer that he was trying to give a little extra overtime to, and I was looking to put together some workouts because the workout that I was going to in Santa Monica had stopped. And basically, it was an intimate gathering of about six voiceover talents, and we'd bring in a special guest. We had a yoga teacher one time that taught about breathing and stretching. We had some career coaching. We had casting directors. We had agents. So it wasn't just about trying to get a job, it was about developing the craft of what audio description is. And it was incredibly helpful to meet these people that wanted to do this. And so, cut to uh, my discovery of audio description. Audio description's been around for what, 30 some years, but
Yeah.
this is pre-pandemic. I noticed that there was a real gap in the access for disabled talent. That there's a lot of really great people that had opportunities and that did not have the opportunities that I, as a sighted person, had. And so I wanted to use audio description as kind of a gateway to provide that access, not just for the performers who are disabled, but also the people that were involved in the casting or that were involved in the facilities to show that the gap isn't as great as unfortunately some blind talents were being faced. I don't want to share the stories, but you can imagine the obstacles and barriers that were
Oh,
yeah.
sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So this workout was always and is always intended to be inclusive, to make sure that blind and sighted performers can work together. Back to my workouts that I was doing even before I started doing my own, there was a real built-in network. So we learned from the people that were coming in, but we also supported each other. The other voice talents were actually supporting each other. And I found that my opportunities in my career came from staying in touch with other voice talents, and it seemed like a great opportunity to make sure that both blind and sighted voice talents could get together and work. And so the intent of building this workout was for not only skill building of what audio description is, but also to get that community and collaboration going. When the pandemic hit, it went virtual, and so the opportunities opened up to a lot more people besides just people in the Los Angeles area. So I met Dave at one of those workouts, and he was exceptional. I remember the his experience in dubbing really translated well to the audio description nuance performance, and it was so clear seeing him work how effortlessly he was able to jump into the zone. And I think it's because of all the work that he's put in to be able to do that. So it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that that's sort of where Dave comes from because he uses a lot of that in his work on in shows like Solar Opposites.
Sure.
Um, yeah, and which really ends up complementing that show because that's kind of a goofy show. So for the audio description to not be so flat, I think fits the tone of the show.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, for for you, you must get pretty consistent offers and be busy. And I love what you said about like promoting disabled talent and just helping to shape the landscape of audio description. Um, have you ever uh, have you ever felt like that you've been offered something that you would pass to something else? And have you ever done that before? Have you ever gotten a gig and been like, I'm not the right person for this, but you should ask blank for this? Like, yeah,
That happens a lot. And then there's also times where I've been told this was an interesting experience where I was told I'd be working on a project and I looked it up and it was good to go. And it turned out it wasn't the series, it was a film. And the film wasn't something that seemed like I, it's not for me to make the judgment. But in this case, it didn't feel right, and there's a way to approach clients because in I also produce audio description, and I understand everyone has their own approach, but in this particular experience, they had already had the casting done. They had already chosen my voice, and they had already sent all the scripts, and it was a short turnaround time. And so for me to say I can't do it, what I ended up doing was saying, "I'm gonna record this project," and, they asked, "Hey, why did you accept it?" And, it's like, yeah, it fell through the cracks here. We didn't clarify that it was a feature versus a series. And so I ended up doing the project and said, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna record this to lay it down. Here's some other options that might be a better fit, and, if you can make it work, great. I don't wanna put you in the awkward position." So I gave them I don't have agency to choose which projects I work on. The clients do. And so
yeah,
when there's an opportunity, it's like I want to be really clear that here's something where I can offer something to you that, there's some other opportunities, there's some other choices that could be made. ultimately, the facilities that I'm being hired by might not even have the final choice. It could have been their clients. So that's like 2 steps away from me where the people that hire them are making that decision. So there's a lot of, uh, as much as I'd love to be able to choose exactly which projects I'd work on, there's been several that I really would have been a great fit for, and they went in a different direction. So I've been on both sides of that. But the times where I have referred other people, it's worked out, it's helped other people expand their opportunities because now there's this other person that's working for this facility that didn't have an opportunity. And what's really interesting about this, John, is that
Yeah.
when that's happened, it's not a zero sum game in the sense of I lost and they won. It really is supportive in the sense that I feel that by making that decision and offering, "Hey, here's someone else that you can go with," it's expanding the opportunity. My integrity is showing through. I'm giving more opportunities, and it's not me that's making this decision. It's the client that's making the decision. So it's like it's an offer. It's not a you should do this. It's a have you considered or would you consider? It's a question, and I feel like
Right.
that really helps a lot.
Yeah, you're just the talent that's being offered the gig, and I think about
Mhm.
that sort of like even from my perspective, just the white guy, like if somebody came up to me and was like, "Hey, uh, we're doing a production of Dreamgirls. We want you to be we want you to be Cece in Dreamgirls." I'd be like, "No." I mean, I appreciate it, but, uh, do do you are you not familiar with the show? Like, what is the ask here? Do you not know what Dreamgirls is? So, I kinda wonder because, like, if you ever just gotten something just so mind-blowing where you're just like, "But why me?" Like, Tyler Perry presents. They picked me for I don't know if you've been on any Tyler Perry presents stuff before, but, it just seems like you'd be maybe an odd fit for a Tyler Perry show. But,
To your
I
point,
would
the
be an
culture
odd
is
fit.
changing.
I would be an
The
odd
culture
fit
is
for a
changing
Tyler
though,
Perry.
right? It's like being recognized even outside of audio description. And let's look at the big picture here.
Yeah.
The voice talents and the actors are recognizing these, appropriate casting.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
the
exactly,
fact
yeah,
that audio
but
description is following that, I think is so significant that we are following that professional path.
sure, yeah, but before, like, back in the day,
Oh,
earlier
right. Of
earlier audio
course.
description, when they weren't thinking about that kind of thing, we were just kinda throwing around and being like, "Blind people don't care." Who cares? I don't know. We just have to do this. I think it's possible that random things were thrown at people, without that kind of level of thought. Now we're definitely doing a lot more intentional casting in terms of making sure that, uh there's like a holistic approach to it. So I love the fact that you're taking that and passing it along. It sounds like, I mean, you wrote a book that's like an intro for other people to get into it. You've helped other people
It's
get into the industry. You've passed gigs along to other people. So you seem like the right person to write a book on how to do this, like how to get started on
it's uh
this.
it's also written for people that work in it. I really target, the title is a voice actor's guide in the
Mhm.
title, but it's kind of a backdoor to accessibility using audio description as like a microcosm. Like let's talk about audio description from a very specific lens, and that lens is audio description performer like myself discussing this with others. So it's not an intro. It's definitely written for people that are already working in audio description
Okay.
as performers as well as others. And I find that the you had talked about intentional casting. The idea of audio description being intentional is something that I really focus on. The idea of accessibility being that immersive experience, which I don't think has been discussed as widely as I've been really focused on, in the sense of we've got accessibility for checking the box to say yes, it has audio description. That feels like we're okay. We've now checked the box. It does have audio description, and we've got several blind audiences and audio description audiences who are not pleased and not having that same experience that sighted people are having. And
Mhm.
that kind of discrimination is being addressed. And I wanted to celebrate those wins that are happening in the facilities that are doing this, as well as the audience members and the 80 uh, professionals of all kinds, whether that's the writers, the quality control, the producers, the casting, the every department that is taking those steps to make sure that this audio description is in parity to what the intent of the original story was. And yeah, that's the name of my company, Parity Endeavors. So there's a real focus on using this book as not just a calling card for quality audio description, but what professionalism means in the wider sense of access.
I think that's great too, especially in a day and age where it feels like we are so close to them just copying out and pushing out text to speech, AI audio description on the world, uh, and being like, well, blind people don't deserve, uh, to have quality audio description when we can just generate cheap baseline audio description. And how do you feel about the use of text to speech AI audio description encroaching on the work that voiceover? I feel like I know what the answer to this question is going to be, but I'm going to ask it. We're going to put it out there. Let's talk about DTS and AI voices and audio description. What are your
Let's
thoughts
do it because I'm
on
going to go
that?
back to parrot. I have a very surprising answer. There is a place for text to speech, and I feel like the text to speech opportunity is there for informational content. This has been something I've been screaming about, and many others are talking about
Yeah,
it too. That when it comes to getting the facts out, John, I've got no interest in reading a blind person's schedule or calendar or social media feed. There's no
sure.
reason for me as a voice talent to sit down and get into the character mode of, what somebody's email from their Chase bank account is. That
Right.
there and let's even expand it to something that might be a little more relevant. That when it comes to urgent news stories, I'd imagine that there's a lot of content that's visual that does need that text to speech just to get the information out there quickly, because that is a form of access, is time. In that context, when we've got pre-recorded media or when we've got live shows, there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of intent that's going on emotionally. And this is what I've trained as a voice actor, that, a lot of the book is not about reading words. Let me go to an even bigger picture. I
Okay.
had talked about you had talked about the intentional casting. And
Right.
when our focus in audio description is not on cost, but of making it in parity to what the actual content is, I think what we're talking about is being able to have this experience that does match. And let me make sure I got this flow right, because I think this is a really important point.
Hmm.
If we have a non-professional audio description performer doing a title that has professional across the board, whether it's the costumes, the sound, the music, the composing, the casting, the actors, that's going to stand out. That's the weakest link. It's the poor performance is just as bad as sloppy AI. And as AI, sorry, let me use text to speech. As text to speech grows, it's getting better. It will get better. And it's, there's a whole argument that it's stealing from existing content, which that's a whole other conversation. But in the context of what we're talking about, for audio description to be in parity to what the content is, so that our audiences can have that same immersive experience that sighted people have, it's really important that it's not about, is text to speech good or bad? I feel the conversation is this experience that we're having, specifically with the performer in audio description, matching what's happening? You had addressed it in the sense of casting, but within that casting, there's also all sorts of skills and artistry that goes into how those words are read. And going back to the workout where Dave was at, and the other workouts that I do, I want to make sure that that nuance is respected, because not only is it really hard to hear audio description that's text to speech, but it's also incredibly debilitating to hear someone that is just reading words like they don't give a care.
Yeah, I've always I think, the key word there is artistry because I've always believed, um, especially if, we were able to make a play, sort of like a little bit of a plea, if you will, to the DGA, and get, like, a presentation to all of those people because they're the people who are really, think of what they're doing as art, and if they're some of them may be hesitant to have audio description, but if they understand why it's there, like I understand Woody Allen originally was like, "Why are you adding words to my thing?" And it's like,
Mm,
well, it's for blind people so that they can see also what you shot. It's not just your script; it's also the intentionality of your direction.
mhm,
But I think if they're involved and understand what that process is, that they're not going to want the baseline text to speech on their film. There's always this hesitancy, even with dubbing, that they don't like it because it's not the original actor. So I think if they found out at all that there was this low quality thing that was being slapped on their films, that they would.
mhm,
I think part of it is just it's ignorance at this point. Is that people they're getting away with doing it because those people don't know, because
mm.
the DGA is just sort of, um, at least at large. I'm sure there definitely are directors who are aware because they know people who are, but I think they're probably just largely oblivious to it. But I also agree with your point about TTS that there are places for it. And one thing that you didn't bring up was services like YouTube and TikTok and those, you know, Twitch and content creator type things where you're creating videos, but people are creating so many of them, and no, those videos are never going to get audio description. I'm never going to audio describe my movie reviews. I don't know why I would need to, but I'm just
Mhm.
talking. Uh, I usually try to say what I'm wearing, but it's a stagnant me talking to the camera. But something they want that. So if YouTube was to have a feature where a blind person could activate audio descriptions just because they wanted it, I don't know why. I don't know why that couldn't be a thing. I don't know why for TikTok, when your friend sends you a link to that video and you can't watch it on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, why can't you just flip a switch and then suddenly you're like, "Oh, I know what this is now. Thank you." Thank you
I
to my
think YouTube
weird
is
friend that
working on
showed me
it.
this
They've
thing.
they've
Yeah,
got a few videos that have that switch, and hopefully it'll be more just as effortless as turning on the closed captioning.
that's what I'm
But to your
hoping is
point,
that like throughout the not just like video to video, but like actually, have the power just within, for the whole thing, just
yeah.
encompassing the service. If you could just do that for the service as an accessibility tool to just be able to turn it on, and then
Well,
it would do some sort of AI thing, I think that would be helpful. Anyway, what were you gonna
you're
say?
making a great point. It's like what we're talking about here is what is the end result that we want? I using the example of news, let's expand it to what you're saying, whether it's TikTok or YouTube videos. And for the most part, those aren't necessarily I'm struggling. Hang on just a second. I want to make sure I make this point because I'm 100% in agreement with you, and there's no disagreement at all. I think the point that we're looking at is that access matters. Let me give an example. As an audio description performer, I value the human voice. I worked on producing audio description where there was not only no human voice, there was no text to speech. It was purely text. And the cell was this video had already been created. It was wall to wall audio. And the people that were watching this wall to wall audio who were blind needed the context of what was happening on screen. And we could establish that in words that they could opt to read whenever they wanted. So instead of forcing this 60-second audio clip of someone speaking, here's what you're about to see, we included it almost like a caption. So we did image description of, we did the work. We saw the video. It wasn't like we were trying to cheat the system. But in this particular case, the audio description was no audio. It was pure text. And for this purpose, for the purpose of this particular video that was wall to wall, that was informationally based, that was people just want to hop in, get the details, and hop out and know what is going on screen. We were able to accomplish that. And it was a real, here's this person that's like, I want to include audio description. And we talked them out of using any voice and any audio because that's what the content asked for. And I feel like you had said, the artistry of working with the DGA, that if I could tie that together, that what we're talking about is bringing, whether the story is an epic battle that involves emotional characters dealing with their uh, their mythic quest, or if it's content that's just informationally based, where we want to get the information as fast and as quickly and as most efficiently as possible. We're removing barriers in either direction. And let's make those decisions, not say everything needs the best audio description ever, because that doesn't make sense either.
Yep. Yeah, I'm always really disappointed whenever I find something that doesn't have audio description, and I feel like it's something that should have. Like, it's something that has
Yeah.
a budget, it's newer, and it's sort of prevalent still across all streaming services. Um, Sadly, even Apple Plus had just released a movie that should have had audio description. But
Wow.
and yeah, and they have a pretty solid record, but they chose not to audio describe Bread and Roses. Um, and Netflix just dropped 100 Years of Solitude. It doesn't have audio description. That's a pretty big novel, and they went ahead and paid for the dub cast for it, but they didn't pay for the audio description to accompany the dub. So it just remains sort of inaccessible to specifically blind people.
Mm.
Um, and I'm very much like, if you're going to produce a dub, go ahead and do the audio description, because people don't need the dub as much as people need the audio description.
Mm.
Uh, because chances are, if your vision is impaired enough that you can't read the subtitles, you might also benefit from the audio description. Like,
Maybe.
in several cases, you might also, why don't you try it and see? You know? So if you make the
Sure.
audio description the primary instead of leaning on dubbing as being the primary, then you'll have some people who are like, "Well, I'm getting a lot of information. I don't know if I need all the information." You know?
Wow.
So yeah, it's definitely an interesting landscape out there to try to navigate, and you're trying to help people create the best possible experience through this book of yours, um, which is available where? We didn't talk about that. People
Sure.
have
If you
no idea how to get your book, Roy.
let's talk about that. If people go to roysamuelson.com/book, it has the available digital, audiobook, and print versions available. So roysamuelson.com/book. And there's also some more information about the book and the approach. And I've added some who should not read this and why this book's unique and what's inside, that sort of stuff, to give a little more of a context of what the book's about.
Great, that's excellent. And, is there an audiobook form of this? I feel
Yeah,
like there should be. I feel like you should
I
be
actually
reading your own
pitched
book.
my I pitched my publisher. I'm like, can we have two versions where I read it and we also have the full book text, just to show how crappy it is? And she did not like that idea at all. But I did take in the audiobook itself, there's a few areas where I do have some fun with it, but it's the audiobook is available as well as the digital and the print version, so 3 different versions.
Cool. Yeah, I suppose if somebody always wanted to get really inventive, they could find a way to get to take the print and the text and then have their screen reader, if they're really wanting that robotic text to speech voice, figure out how to
It's,
get the text into that,
well, the
uh
digital with the screen reader, that should work, right?
yeah,
Whether
digital
it's
with screen
JAWS
reader, yeah.
or VoiceOver.
Get your screen reader to read it to you.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, so the book is out there. What is your favorite chapter? You don't have to tell me what it's about, but is it like having a favorite child? Do you
It's
like,
the biggest
where does your book get
message.
good? Where's the where yeah.
You know, it's really tailored that I hope that no matter who's reading it, whether it's someone who has no idea about audio description, someone who's incredibly familiar and has been working in it for a long time, or just somewhere in between, uh, there's something there. I think let me say there's 2 points. It's joining forces with production, which we've kind of addressed, and also the the nuance that this kind of work does require nuance, and it's very subtle, and it is a high wire act. I find that a lot of audio description performers that are new to it, and even some that are working in it, find that I have to do less, and I think a lot of that came from those. It's performing audio description that supports the story without overshadowing it, and also on the other side about joining production, that there is there are an incredible amount of hidden challenges that are in the process, and I wanted to peel back some of those behind the scenes challenges that productions do have, that I myself had some assumptions that have been thankfully corrected by talking to not only AD facilities but also those who are involved in actively including audio description and some of the challenges that might be more to. I could go on. There's so
Yeah,
many
yeah,
sections about this book that I love,
right.
so I'm but those 2 really come to mind as the most important messages that I like getting out there. And it's all about connection. Every single page is about connection, and that's
That's
something
great.
that's a core value of mine.
Uh, Speaking of challenges, what do you find more challenging, doing an audiobook or doing, audio description? Like, from your typical narration?
Oh, that's so good of a question, John. I think about the audiobooks that I've done outside of my own. It really depends on the content. Because I'm so passionate about this work, this audiobook flowed. And I do love working in audio description. There's been times where I've worked on projects, excuse me. There's times where I've worked on an audio description project where it was really hard to get through. And it was hard because of maybe the content was really challenging, or in most cases, it's because the writing itself was either overwritten or written in a way that showed a lack of professionalism, and those are really hard to get through. So it really depends on the project. But for this particular audiobook, um, it was really enjoyable to get that out there, and it was probably one of the more effortless audiobooks that I've worked on.
Cool. And you're still keeping that, ADNA going, right? Do you wanna explain to anybody who's never graced, the ADNA what that is
Sure.
and how they can find that?
Sure, it's, the website is the ADNA.org, and that's the Audio Description Network Alliance, and there's 2 parts to it. It's the podcast, the ADNA Presents, where we interview people like yourself and others, professionally involved in audio description.
I've been interviewed
We've also
twice.
Yes, as well you should have been. It's also a database. Imagine internet movie database exclusively for audio description professionals, whether that's writers, quality control, directors, performers like myself, and it's been really interesting to see how people have leveraged both the podcast as well as their own credits for their own career advancement. That was the intent. Uh, the ADNA launched when I had a bunch of my audio description credits pulled from a website that I was using to market to get to develop my career. And people were saying, "Why are you sharing your links to all your voiceover credits where you've got no AD?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's all there," but it had all been taken down. And so the ADNA was a resource for myself and for others to be able to showcase the work that they've done and to be able to track it. Because John, I might be the worst voice for some people. I might remind them of an ex-boyfriend, and they want to avoid any project that I worked on. Or there could be someone that wants to hear Laura Post, and it's like, what has she worked on lately? Or
Yeah.
name another voice talent that performs audio description. It's like the same with writing. There's certain writers that I really have a positive affinity for, and I want to know what other projects they've worked on.
But
Or
there's
hey,
also a
there's a new
search
show that
option too,
exactly,
so
yeah,
that if you listen to something that for some reason doesn't have a credited narrator or whatever, and you want to find out, it might be listed
yeah.
there as well.
I'm really
So
excited. There's some big changes coming soon to the ADNA on the database side. Uh, the uh, the intent has always been to provide that access, and I mean it's been crowdsourced. It's been something that has been a labor of love for everyone that's contributed to it. So this next step I'm very excited about, and I will admit that with the book launch, the podcast has taken a pause. I've got 3 episodes that I'm very eager to edit and get out there, but
yeah,
it's been important to get the book out, and I can't wait to get back to the podcast.
that's great. Um, so I guess sort of just to wrap up the final question of the day here, to
Uh-huh.
leave people, what's the final thought? Pitch me your book. I don't want to buy it. Sell it to me. I don't.
Sure.
I work in audio description, and I think I know everything. Why should I buy your book?
It's I feel like everyone in audio description has the same conversation again and again and again. I th- and I would hope that the book is used for people to be able to say, "Here, read this." Like, instead of explaining again and again what is audio description, why it matters, and why our audience shouldn't be discriminated against as far as their immersive experience. Like I said, the high wire active AD performance, the why a bland voice hurts the story, the idea of why AD is not just for blind audiences, the connection between production and AD, and why that matters, why AD is a craft and not a checklist. Peeling behind the curtain of some of the challenges that writers have, or quality control, or performers have.
Yeah,
There's a whole analogy about why audio description performers are like plumbers. There's like the idea here is all about professionalism, and that checking the box does matter. I do not discount the many efforts that have been to get more numbers up for audio description. This book is a celebration of that, but it's also a celebration of those people you had mentioned, Dave, the writers that we value, the casting decisions that matter, the productions that are actually including audio description in their conversations. This is happening, and it's happening in a lot of places, and it's really exciting to see that grow. And this book is a celebration of that.
well, uh, I celebrate the arrival of your book, and I look forward to
Nice.
reading it. And I thank you for joining me today to talk about your uh, your foray into into being an author. And I hope it goes well for you. I know, uh, as someone who sees my subscriber count, I'm well aware that often we market ourselves to niche audiences. So I just hope that whatever metric you're looking for, you meet that metric,
Thanks.
based
Can
on
I do a little postscript on that, if it's all right?
sure. Yeah.
I'm reading a book outside of the audio description context, but it talks about the habit forming behaviors and the sense that what you are doing right now and what you've been doing for years has led you to the opportunity to be a critic. And I look at the work that I've done behind the scenes on the book and some of my own efforts in accessibility on the audio description side, that there's a lot of times where it feels like it's flatlining. But even though it might not have the hits or the counts, the work that's being done as far as my own growth of learning, of experimenting and playing and seeing, oh yeah, this works or this doesn't, has really been instrumental. This book, Audio Description Performance, the Voice Actor's Guide to Audio Description Performance, it was the number one hot new release on Amazon, and it beat out Patty LuPone's memoir. So it has some legs. I didn't expect that. I didn't do it for that. I did
Yeah.
it because I knew that this book had to get out there. I needed to put this book out. Even if one person buys it, that's enough. And that was the intent behind it. So it's exciting to see that it does have some legs, but I'm not doing it for that purpose. I'm doing it to really get my ideas out there in a way that I can finally learn how to communicate. And just the entire process of writing the book itself has really helped clarify a lot of the points that were kind of swimming around in my head. I'm not sure if that makes sense or not, but I intend
No,
it
it
as a
does.
celebration for what you've been doing and the good work that, regardless of thumbs, likes, or subscribers, that you yourself have grown your professionalism as a critic simply because of showing up every day.
Yeah, there's a little quote in, Hamilton that I always really like that, sort of always inspires me every day, and it's, "Tomorrow there'll be more of us."
Oh,
So,
wow, nice. Good one.
yeah, and, that is, that that sort of, helps to sort of solidify this whole thing of momentum, of
Wow.
forward momentum, and continuing to cliche break glass ceilings, open doors, however you want to say that. But
Sure.
yeah, exactly. You're putting it out there to the world, and if it wasn't there, there wouldn't be anything there. If I wasn't here, there wouldn't be anything here. So
Yeah.
everybody is just trying to continue to move this medium forward. And again, I appreciate the work that you're doing. I think you do exceptional work in the audio description field. I look forward to your book. I hope everybody goes out and buys your book and reads it. Even I know it's meant for narrate for audio description areas, but I think even like I don't do narration. I think it'll be fascinating for me to read anyway. So I think for a lot of people who are just sort of obsessed with audio description, if that's possible, might still find value in your words. So it can't hurt, you know. What are you going to read instead? You know, the latest James Patterson book. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for being here, and I look forward to talking to you again. And I wish you all the best on your book.
Thanks so much,
So,
John.
yeah, thanks for being here. This was great.